the rule is that we would have to suspend and move to a larger accommodation, of which there is not one in the winter. So we're just going to make do here as best we can. Mr. Mayo, you ready to go?
Yes.
You ready to go?
Ready.
Yeah, okay. Call to order the special town meeting for the town of Wakefield. First we have, okay, here's the thing. For those of you who may not have been at town meeting before, you get 5 minutes to speak, okay? You have to stay within the four corners of the article and the motion after the rules. Got a lot of advice this morning. So anyway, not just from Mayreen, she was actually helping me. So here's what you do. You get to speak for 5 minutes, and then everyone else has to speak before you can get back up. Think that over. And then you get 2 minutes, okay? But as to you have to stay within the four corners of the article, okay? We're going to keep personalities out of it. This is about a new physical plan for the school. I understand how the school operates may be relevant, but let's not get, and the biggest thing is there's going to be no personalities here, okay? Those of you who've been to this meeting before know since I've started, I just don't go for that, okay? The other thing is, well, we'll have those two motions when we get to it. So now we need the Pledge of Allegiance. Who's doing the pledge? Okay, here you go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the return of the warrant, return of service of the warrant for this meeting. I, Constable Christian K. Lopes, hereby certify that I have posted the special town meeting warrant of January 28th, 2023 on January 10th, 2022 and received by the clerk, Betsy Sheeran, who's still hard at work. All right, what do we got next here? Okay, well, let's get right to it. The proposal is, Steve, where's the warrant? Where's the article? Is it in here? Oh, I see, it's right after. Okay. Article 1, I'm sorry. To see if the town will appropriate a sum of money to pay the cost of constructing the new Wakefield Memorial High School, including expansion of the Lanarkville parking lot, which may include relocation of Hemlock Road with new intersection to be located at the site of the existing Wakefield Memorial High School, 60 Farm Street, and in nearby Wakefield, Massachusetts, replacing the existing Memorial High School, including payment of all costs related to designing the new school project, equipping and furnishing the school, site improvements, and all other costs incidental and related thereto, the project. Which new school facility will have an anticipated useful life as an educational facility for instructions of the children of at least 50 years, and for which the town may be eligible for a grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, the MSBA, and to determine if said appropriation shall be expended under the direction of the Wakefield Permanent Building Committee, to determine if said appropriation shall be raised by borrowing or otherwise, to determine if the town shall acknowledge that the MSBA's grant is a non-entitlement discretionary program based on need as determined by the MSBA, and in any project costs the town incurs in excess of any grant approved by and received from the MSBA shall be the sole responsibility of the town, and any grant that the town may receive from the MSBA for the project shall not exceed the lesser of 1, 53 1/14%, 53.14, of eligible approved cost as determined by the MSBA, or 2, the total maximum grant amount determined by the MSBA, to determine if the amount of any borrowing authorized for the project shall be reduced by any grant amount set forth in and received pursuant to the project funding. Agreement that may be executed between the town and the MSBA to determine whether the appropriation of any borrowing authorized for this project shall be contingent upon the town's passage of a ballot question to exempt the principal and interest payments of such borrowing from the tax limitations pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 59, 21C, Section 21C, that's Proposition 2.5, or to take any other action relative to it. Motion?
Moved that the town hereby appropriates $273,250,903 to pay cost of constructing a new Wakefield Memorial High School, including expansion of Landrigan Field parking lot, and which may include relocation of Hemlock Road with new intersection, to be located on the site of and replacing the existing Wakefield Memorial High School at 60 Farm Street, and nearby in Wakefield, Massachusetts, replacing the existing Wakefield Memorial High School, including the payment of all costs related to designing the new school project, equipping and furnishing the school, site improvements, and all other costs incidental and related therefore the project, which new school facility shall have an anticipated useful life as an educational facility for the instruction of school children of at least 50 years, and for which the town may be eligible for a grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, the MSBA, said amount to be expended under the direction of the Wakefield Permanent Building Committee, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the town council, is authorized to borrow said amount pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7.1, or General Law, Chapter 70B, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the town, therefore, that the town acknowledges that the MSBA's grant program is a not-entitlement discretionary program based on need, as determined by the MSBA, and any project cost the town incurs in excess of a grant approved by and received from the MSBA shall be the sole responsibility of the town, that any grant that the town may receive from the MSBA for the project shall not exceed the lesser of 1, 53 and 1400% of eligible approved project cost as determined by the MSBA, or 2, the total maximum grant amount determined by the MSBA. That the amount of the borrowing authorized by this vote shall be reduced by any grant amount set forth in and received pursuant to the project funding agreement that may be executed between the town and the MSBA, provided, however, that the appropriation and authorization to borrow pursuant to this vote shall be contingent upon the town's passage of a ballot question to exempt the principal and interest payment on such borrowing from the tax limitations of General Law, Chapter 59, Section 21C, Proposition 2.5.
Is there a second? Thank you. All right, as I alluded to earlier, we need a couple of procedural motions here. Anyone who is not a resident of a registered citizen, registered to vote as a citizen in Wakefield is not entitled to speak in front of the town meeting unless approved by this body. So we're going to need a motion on that because some of the folks, in the PowerPoint presentation, and some folks who may get up or maybe ask questions, the architect, we'll need that approval. The second motion, procedural motion, is that I have a lot of discretionary motions that have evolved over time, and one of them, as Dan Sherman can tell you, is that presentations to this body should not exceed 15 minutes. The presentation put together for these purposes is approximately 30 minutes. It hopefully and most likely will answer many of your questions, which maybe not need to be asked later on if everyone pays attention. Okay, so Mr. Mayo, having anticipated this, we made the proper motions for this. Mr. Mayo.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the percentages of this motion be granted up to 45 minutes for the initial presentation.
Is there a second? What happened to a half an hour? Just wondering. All right. Any discussion?
We'll talk fast.
Any discussion? There being no discussion, the motion before you is to expand the 15 minutes to hopefully less than 45 minutes. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Second motion, Mr. Mayo.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the following non-Wakefield residents be allowed to present and/or answer questions in regard to this article. Margaret Messier, who is an English teacher and curriculum coordinator at the high school. Erin Manzi, who is a world language teacher and curriculum coordinator at the high school. Diana Ho, who is the library media specialist at the high school. Amy McLeod, who is the high school principal. Lynn Stapleton, who is our owner's project manager. with left field, and Brian Black, architect.
Is there a second? Any discussion on the motion to allow out-of-towners to talk at this meeting? There being no discussion, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Mayor, can I have that second motion?
Yes.
Copy. Superintendent Lyons, you're going to run the show from here on out for a while? Okay. Hey, folks, there's plenty of prime seats over here, and this could go a while, so just pointing that out. All right. Superintendent Lyons, you got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Doug Lyons. I am the superintendent of schools. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. We want to thank everybody for coming out this morning. We wanted to start our presentation with this slide and just kind of and share that what a milestone this is. This meeting is 5 years in the making. We decided to pursue the MSBA grant in 2018 after several failed attempts to be accepted into the grant. And what we're trying to do this morning is to share information so that you can make the best decision possible. And we also want to be clear and let you know that we are seeking to correct or address safety and accessibility issues at the current high school, to offer academic and extracurricular programming that is more consistent with the educational plan, and to address accreditation and educational outcomes for our students. And each presenter will share a little bit more information on these topics. At this point, I would like to introduce Erin Manzi, one of our curriculum coordinators and teacher leaders. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Erin Manzi, 47 Jordan Ave. I am a resident of Wakefield, and like Mr. Lyons said, I am the World Language Curriculum Coordinator, grades 5 through 12. Good morning, and thank you very much for taking time out of your busy Saturday morning to attend this very important meeting regarding the future of our school system. I'm excited to talk to you about the potential our new school has to enhance the curriculum, enhance the instruction, and the overall experience for our students, our staff, and our community that I live in. If you've had the opportunity to visit our school, you'll be able to observe the dated conditions and the inconsistencies in ventilation, heating, lighting, technology, electrical outlets, and the lack of natural light throughout the school. Moving from classroom to classroom, you'll be able to feel the dramatic variations in classroom sizes, limited spaces, and the lack of appropriate accommodations for our diverse population. The environmental factors listed greatly impact the quality of our instruction, the ability to adjust grouping, to adjust teaching modalities, and it impacts the students' physical comfort in their learning environment. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide. Thank you. The plans presented for the new school will give teachers the ability to improve the structure and the design of lessons, better meet the needs of all students in the classroom, incorporate flexible groupings, and support collaboration. Students will be able to engage in large group direct instruction. They'll be able to discuss ideas and topics in small collaborative groups, and they'll be able to work individually if they need to in some small quiet spaces and really focus on tasks at hand. The proposed structure gives our students the opportunity to practice and to develop interpersonal skills, team building skills, problem solving skills, which are essential for future success during the next steps of their education and in the workforce. These are skills that companies and colleges are looking for in our students and in our children. The design that is presented today is not extra, filled with bells and whistles. It is appropriate to the call of public education to prepare and to support our students to be successful adults when they leave the halls of our school. The education and development of our students are vital to the strength and the growth of our Wakefield community in which I live in. Thank you.
No, I leave you alone for a minute. There's no cheerleading. You are now a legislative body. Sit up straight, pay attention. You're a legislative body. Have some respect here. This is, as you've heard me say many times, this is not a pep rally. At the end of the vote, hoot and holler all you want, but until then, pay attention. Thank you very much. Behave while I sit back down.
Good morning. My name is John Hanron. I'm a resident of Wakefield, 19 Chapman Road. I'm also a science teacher and the Science, Technology, and Engineering Department Coordinator at the high school. So we in the Science Department are very excited about the prospect of a new high school and what this could mean for us as we continue to adapt and innovate our instruction to meet the diverse learning needs of our students. So back in 2016, Massachusetts adopted a new curriculum frameworks in science that is based on the National Next Generation Science Standards. These standards place a heavy emphasis on the science and engineering practices, which include skills such as developing models, planning and conducting investigations, defining problems and designing solutions, and collecting and analyzing data. So we have worked hard to integrate and incorporate these skills into our teaching and learning, but we're finding that the spaces we have currently limit us in our capacity to do so. Our classrooms are undersized for group work, and they limit our flexibility in the learning experiences that we can provide our students. Further, space constraints lead to teachers having to spend up to 10 minutes at the start of class time, either transitioning or setting up lab experiences for their students, which leads to a loss of instructional time on learning. Next slide, please. So we are hopeful that a new school building will provide spaces that are fully accessible, flexible, and adaptable so that our students can participate in authentic and collaborative learning experiences that will prepare them to meet the science and engineering challenges of the present and future. So I will now introduce Diana Ho, who is the Library Media Specialist at Wakefield Memorial High School.
Good morning. My name is Diana Ho, and I'm the Library Media Specialist at Wakefield Memorial High School. In the past 10 years, we have significantly improved our library program to cater to the diverse needs of teachers and students by providing services that support their academic, social, and emotional growth. The library has undergone a transformation from a large, outdated repository primarily used for solitary study to an inclusive, forward-thinking program. However, the library's location and design present obstacles to effective teaching and learning, despite the wealth of resources and efforts to modernize. The library is not fully accessible for individuals with disabilities. It does not have a comfortable and easily navigable layout and has no access to natural light. This makes it less appealing for students and makes it challenging to provide a suitable environment for both quiet study and collaborative learning. Next slide, please. The proposed new library would truly be at the heart of the school, featuring ample access to natural light and outdoor views, as well as advanced technology and a variety of seating options. It would include flexible instructional spaces that are designed to cater to the diverse needs of students and faculty, whether they require a quiet, sensory-friendly environment or a more collaborative and interactive one. The design of the new library would complement existing educational practices. It would amplify the fact that all library visitors are supported and welcome. Thank you. I would now like to introduce Principal Amy McLeod to the podium.
Good morning. My name is Amy McLeod, and I'm the proud principal here at Wakefield Memorial High School. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to speak this morning. First, I'd like to talk about our current hallways. How students travel through our building and how the traffic flows across the day is essential to the health and safety of our student body. Students right now travel through isolated hallways and rooms where there's little adult supervision. Internal pathways and spaces lack light, they lack flow, and they lack visibility to the adults that care for our young people every day. This can also create stress and disorientation for our most at-risk students who need support throughout their day. Next slide, please. The new configuration would focus on a more purposeful layout. Instead of long, empty hallways, we would hope to see collaborative breakout spaces scattered throughout the building, where students can work together or connect with their teachers while still connecting to classrooms and being in close proximity to adults. Students can feel independence that they need at the high school level while also still being supervised and supported by adults. A sense of belonging and community in a new building will permeate throughout. Next slide, please. Our current space is also limited in how it can meet the needs of the school and community. Spaces and layouts, as you heard from the speakers before me, are inflexible, they're not multi-purpose, and they can be very hard for students in their growing social emotional needs to exist daily in antiseptic spaces and often with much noise and confusion in terms of how to travel the building. Next slide, please. A new high school should be a space that welcomes people, that welcomes this community, that has a clear and central heart of the school to welcome folks when they arrive, that can serve as multifunction spaces, an eating space, after-school studies, or other after-school gatherings, arts and performance showcases, community meetings, and other areas that can better serve not only the needs of high school students, but the needs of the entire Wakefield community. Thank you. I will now turn the podium over to Tim O'Brien, our facilities director.
Good morning. My name is Tim O'Brien. I am a resident of Wakefield at 6 Wharton Park, and I am also the Director of Facilities for Wakefield Public Schools. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the current building deficiencies. Many of you, I'm sure, and I recognize a lot of you, so I know that you've walked the halls of Wakefield High School over the years, whether you are a former student, a parent attending an event, or if you've attended one of our tours that we've hosted over the past few months. And what you'll find is when you walk around this school is that it's clean and presentable. And that's a testament to the custodial staff who works here, and it's a point of pride for all of us who work for facilities in Wakefield Public Schools. When you peel a layer back and you start to look at our mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire suppression systems, you'll find systems and mechanics that are at the end of their useful life. Due to this fact, our facilities team internally, with the help of the DPW, spend a great deal of time and resources reacting to mechanical failures. Some of this time could be spent in other buildings in the district conducting maintenance and proactive maintenance that would prevent mechanical failures in other buildings in the future and be able to spend other resources on other schools. The exterior of the building has noticeably deteriorated and is uninsulated, causing major temperature control issues. And as you walk through the building, you'll find large differences in temperatures. For example, the math hallway is consistently hot through the winter, and then in the summer months as well, there being no air conditioning, it's very hot. And these conditions don't contribute to a learning atmosphere. It causes a lot of issues for students and staff alike. Next slide, please. The roof is in need of a complete replacement. We chase leaks around this building constantly. Just this week, after the snow on Monday, snow melt on the roof caused about a dozen new leaks that didn't exist last week. We've had roofers here all week completing repairs on many different spots in the building. One room in particular, there was a science room. We got in here early in the morning. One of the tiles had fallen out of the ceiling onto the floor and a puddle of water. So these are conditions that we certainly don't want to have our students walking into classrooms and dealing with these things. So we are constantly on it, trying to make sure that we don't have major leaks in the roof. Our other security systems, such as the access control systems and camera systems, are outdated and in need of replacement. And all of these factors have led to increased operating costs in the facility department year over year here at Wakefield High School. Next slide, please. In regards to accessibility, neither of the two elevators in the building meet current ADA standards and cannot fit a conventional gurney that's found in the back of an ambulance. Also, a standard-sized wheelchair will not fit in those elevators. We do have one that does in the building at all times, though. The layout of the building makes it incredibly difficult for students to move from classroom to classroom, especially those who require the use of an elevator. Thank you. Next, I have Joe Bertrand from the Permanent Building Committee.
I'm Joe Bertrand, Chairman of the Permanent Building Committee. Over the past few years, the Permanent Building Committee, in collaboration with the 30-member School Building Committee, the high school administration and faculty, a group of professional consultants, have thoroughly reviewed all the possible options to create a school which reflects 21st century learning and beyond. The committees have had 34 public meetings, 12 community forums, and numerous focus groups, reviewing the deficiencies and the needs of the high school. Next slide. After retaining an architectural firm and an owner's project manager, the committee reviewed over a dozen site alternatives for a new school. These are just some of the sites that we reviewed. The decision was made that the best location for a building of a new school was on the Beasley Track and Field, or the Beasley Oval. For the next step in the process, the MSBA required the committees to analyze 3 alternatives. Next slide. One was a code upgrade, which would upgrade the present building to all present building codes. The second was an addition renovation, and the third was a new construction. Next slide. The code upgrade does not meet the educational goals of the district and does not solve any of the building space deficiencies that you've just heard about. Next slide. The work would require a temporary swing space for students. The total cost would be $177 million. And the MSBA may not even reimburse the town at all for this. Next slide. As to the addition renovation option, this would be a renovation of existing space along with some new construction, but some space issues would remain. Next slide. Temporary modular facilities would be needed, and they are not eligible for reimbursement from the state and the MSBA. Next slide. Due to the staging of the work, construction would last a year longer on this option than new construction. But the major issue for the committees was that the cost of the addition renovation was $272 million, only $1.5 million less than new construction. Next slide. The third option was a new construction. It meets all the requirements of the educational plan proposed by the district. No swing space is needed. There would be no need to stage the work as in the other options. The project would be similar to what we did at the Galvin Middle School. When the new building is completed, all the students will move into it. The committee decided this was the preferred option at a cost of $273.5 million. It meets all the goals and the requisites of the school district. Next slide. After discussion and learning that at the cost of the new construction in April of last year, we had 2 companies. They used normal construction inflation figures. And they estimated at that time that the cost of the new building was $220 million. But after some discussion with the committees and our professional consultants, and learning that the pandemic had caused a large escalation of construction costs, the committees procured a new estimate using the construction manager that we appointed, Bond Building, which are the same people who built the Galvin, and the two companies using real construction inflation figures. This estimate then came to $273.5 million. We have seen other communities who did not use those escalation figures, and they had to go back and seek extra and additional funds, including our neighbor Stoneham. This article here today is the culmination of years of planning and analysis by the Permanent Building Committee, the School Building Committee, starting with a needs assessment, the approval of a schematic design, and now this request for the necessary funding to complete the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Features of the new design would not only make the new building fully accessible for all of our students that are coming from elementary and middle, it would also address current and future space needs, and it would also create a building for the community and create programmatic adjacencies based on the standards that the teachers shared earlier in their comments. Next slide, please. Oh, thank you. We would also have an upgrade in our technology to support teaching and learning. There would be a better integration of special education resources and experiences for students, and it would provide multiple spaces for community use. We were talking about the Galvin this morning and how much use that building gets. The high school would become a venue for those types of activities as well. We also want to emphasize that the new design is 259,000 square feet, where the current building is 250,000 square feet. So with the new features to meet the educational program needs and the new standards and the accreditation, we're increasing the square footage by the currently 9,000 square feet. So these are just some of the features that we'd like to highlight to inform your decision today. Thank you.
So I'm going to speak to you a little bit about sustainability as it pertains to this project. So the goal for this project is to gain a LEED V4 certification. What is that? The term LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. LEED is the most widely used green building rating system in the world, and it's available for virtually all building types. It provides a framework for healthy, efficient, and cost-saving green buildings. The new Wakefield Memorial High School will be net zero energy ready with a solar ready roof. And with the help of the Wakefield Municipal Gas and Light Department, those solar panels will be installed before the completion of the project. The outcome of these green initiatives will yield us a highly efficient building, which results in a 2% increase in MSBA reimbursement. Next slide, please. Other green highlights include outdoor learning spaces, all-electric heating and cooling systems, and even electric vehicles charging stations, again, which will be provided by the WMGLD. Thank you.
Thank you, and before I start, people that are standing over in the side here, there are a lot of empty seats in this side, so I won't be insulted at all if any of you walk during my few moments here.
Before you start, if some of you thought you were clever and did not stand in line and got into the gym, I saw some people coming around, we're only counting your little blue ticket. So there's plenty of time to go back over there and absolve yourself and get a ticket. You're going to sit here this whole time and not get a vote. So have your ticket or go back, but pay attention to Steve while you're trotting over there, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. At the recent town council meeting, a citizen did come to us during public participation and ask about, there's a lot of projects, going on in the area. Can you kind of show where everything is? So I think this slide, thank you to our engineering department for putting this together, shows that we have the high school project, we have the energy park project, and the vocational school project. We are not novices at having multiple projects going around in town at the same time. We certainly will stagger any deliveries and things that needed, and I will tell you that the park, energy park, and the Voc are ahead of any heavy construction that will come on the high school, and the vocational school is planned to have everything come in on an access road off of Farm Street, so there shouldn't be a real issue there with us going forward. So thank you for that citizen for coming in and asking clarification. Next slide, please. Just so everybody knows the proposed schedule, if everything goes with a positive vote tonight, we've already had the MSBA approve the design. That happened on December 22nd. And we have town meeting today, and I will request the town council to set a town meeting date should this pass by a a ballot election date on March 11th. So that is anticipated. Construction should begin in January of 2024, with the school opening in January of 2027, and then the field work being done after that. Next slide, please. So after Superintendent Lyons and his team talked about the wonderful new high school and the wonderful new experience for our citizens and children, the Grinch gets up there and talks about how we're going to pay for it. So I realize I am the skunk at the garden party, so bear with me here. We already talked about construction costs, and the total building is at $273,500,000, and that includes escalation. And I think that's a very important distinction that the chairman of the building committee made, is that we do not anticipate going back for any more money. We think we have taken into account the inflation that's occurred, so we should be in good shape there. And it also includes $30 million of contingencies in the project. So we're hopeful that we won't spend all of that money, and I will tell you that Joe Bertrand and his group brought the Galvin project on time and on budget, and we anticipate the same thing here, hopefully under budget. So the construction costs, the hard costs are $223 million, and next slide, please. And the indirect costs are $49.5 million, which leads us to the next slide, please. I'm trying to speed it up because the moderator is running a stopwatch on me. The total amount is $273.5 million, and the estimated town share is $208 million. And this is actually some better news than we thought when we were looking at these numbers back in November and October, is that the SBA did give us a little bit more money. They did increase the reimbursement amount, but I will tell you that the SBA still hasn't caught up with where construction costs are, but I am very grateful for the work they did, and we ended up getting an extra $5 million on the project, so I'm happy for that. So the question comes down to is, how do we pay for this? And I will tell you, once these numbers came in hard in December, we knew what we had to borrow to make the project work. I requested a cash flow analysis from our architect and from our owner's project manager to see how we were going to fund this and how we're going to pay for this. And I want you to think of this as if we have a big line of credit to build this school, and it's $208 million. We are certainly not going to borrow $208 million on day one. We can't spend it. We shouldn't be spending it. Why would I want to pay interest on anything that we're not using? So we pulled our financial team together, and I have to thank our town treasurer, John McCarthy, our town accountant, Kevin Gill, Victor Santinello, our director of assessments. And when we spoke with our partners at Hilltop Securities, they're our bond counsel. They've handled the bonds for us on every project we have, including the Galvin, and to see how we can take advantage of our AAA bond rating, which everyone in this room should be very proud of, and how can we really limit the impact to the taxpayer. So what we will do, and if you go to the next slide, please, and this is going to take this is a little bit confusing. We will go through a schedule of borrowings over the next few years, and it's designed to limit the interest paid on money that we're not using and hopefully take advantages of what we see as hopefully lower rates in the future, which is what a lot of economists are accounting for right now, coming back in the few years. So what we will do is we will do some short-term borrowing. We will borrow some money in 2000, well, some right away, but we'll permanently finance that in 2025 in September, some more in 2027, and the final will be in 2028. Trying to be flexible and trying to limit interest we pay and try to take advantage of what we think will be lower bond rates in the future. So when I first ran the bond numbers, I started at 5.5%. And after meeting with our finance committee, we have a lot of very smart people on that committee that handle this for a living. They felt that in the next few years we would be looking at lower rates. So what you see in front of you is the assessment to the taxpayer on a year-to-year basis based on what we plan on borrowing and for a range of rates. So if your house is worth $600,000, because of how we're going to be borrowing, the impact for you for the next 2 fiscal years is very, very small. $19, 2024, $64, 2025, mainly because we haven't borrowed a lot of money. We'll be doing plans and construction documents and things like that, not a lot of construction, actual construction. And in bonds, you pay bonds in arrears. So you pay them in arrears. So that will start to kick in 2026. And if we're lucky enough to borrow at 4.25, we're looking at 323, a little bit more, 356 if we're at the high end. So this is a way for you as a taxpayer to kind of get an idea what's going to happen. But the big takeaway is the full impact will not be felt to 2028. Next slide, please. Now, although we gave a number of, on the previous slide, a number of scenarios, 400, 600, 800, and $1 million property value, and I'll tell you that 68% of the taxpayers in Wakefield home is 700,000 or less, about 40% are 600,000 or less, so there are people a lot on the other side. However, we did give you a little calculator here, and this will be on the town website, where you can actually look what we think will happen year by year on your tax rates. You can really take an interesting look on this. So if your house is worth $550 in 2027, depending on where the rates are, you'd be between $528 and $572. Now, I like to underpromise and overdeliver, and that's something that I talk to my staff about all the time. If I really knew where rates were going, believe me, I wouldn't be here. I would be under a palm tree somewhere pressing computer keys. But I really believe in everything I've read, everything I've looked at, and everything we've worked with our financial team here. The rates will be to the lower end of this schedule, and hopefully even maybe lower because economy does have cycles and things come up and down. So I do realize that there is going to be an impact to the taxpayer. Let's talk, next slide please, about some mitigating factors. One item I am very proud of that this town meeting, this body, legislative body, as the moderator says, has passed twice, is the Wakefield Senior Tax Discount Program. And currently, on the new program that we just passed in November, the town will match 150% of the state senior circuit breaker. So if you're a qualified senior, 65 or older, you meet some other items, that is the state. The state requires your income to be $62,000 if you're a single, 78 head of household, 93 married. If you meet those items, and you will get up to $1,200 off of your state income tax. And if you come into our assessor's office with the paperwork from the state, you could get up until recently, up to $1,200 or matching that off of your real estate taxes. So we have about 200, 250 taxpayers that take advantage of this every year. And I got to give Victor Santinello a lot of credit. I know he's here, I saw him earlier. What a wonderful tool that some of our valued seniors are getting, up to $1,200 off on their taxes. What we did at this last town meeting is we raised that so you could get up to $1,800 off, 150% of that. And that's based on the fact that we think on what the state is giving now for a circuit breaker. There is some talk that that amount may increase at the state level, and our match would go off of that. So I think that's really good news for the seniors, our valued seniors, and I hope that more people take advantage of it. I'll tell you that Victor takes his show on the road. You can go to the senior center, you can go to the assessor's office, you can come to my office, contact any of the town councilors. They'll be happy to help you out and get information on that. Next slide, please. So that's one of the mitigating factors. Another mitigating factor is new growth. Now, think about this, because all the numbers that I've given you before are based on a static tax levy. So in other words, all of our values of all of our items in town, and that's what the assessment of that loan would be. So think about this, really simplify this, is that you have rent in your apartment for $1,000 a month, and you have 3 roommates, okay? So 4 of you are sharing the rent equally, so it's $250 each person. Okay, I'm really simplifying it. If you got another roommate in, so now you're splitting that rent by 5, now your portion is dropped to $200 a month. 250 versus 200. Same principle applies here to the new growth argument. So we have a note rate on the bonds. It's like a mortgage payment. Every year it's basically the same amount. And if there's new growth, so if we're spreading that payment around more people, okay, or more property values, what you were paying the year before will go down, will be lessened. So we think that for every $5 million in new growth, you could look at the average tax bill for the high school reducing by about $100, okay? And you might say, well, Steve, how do you know this is going to happen? I don't know that we're going to get new growth every year. I believe we will. But in the last 6 years, we've had a total of $6.6 million in new growth. So when you think about some of the new projects coming on, the project at the head of the lake that's all approved, in fact, they'll be pulling a building permit in calendar year 24, we believe. That's going to add a lot to new growth. Some of the items on Foundry Street, some of the new construction you're seeing that isn't accounted for. I feel very confident that over the next 5 years, we will certainly hit well more than 5 million, or else Victor and I have a lot of problems because we need that just for our regular budget. So I think that'll happen. Some other items are the contingency funding, and Chairman Bertrand of the Permanent Building Committee talked about it a little bit before. We have built into this submission what we feel are some good contingencies because A, we are concerned, what if there is another inflation spike? That seems to be lessening down a little bit, but we all know the cost of items have gone up. Not to that spike we saw, 6 months or a year ago, but we have that worked into the equation here. We also have just regular inflation. We also have a big escalation amount in there and contingencies. So if we don't need this money, about $30 million, we do not borrow it, and therefore the rate comes down as well. So if we put all of these items together, I'm hopeful that that chart, Ryan, can you go back to that chart that showed, no, one more. I'm hopeful that we'll be down more of the lower end here than the higher end in the range. So thank you very much. We'll certainly be here for questions, and I'm going to turn it back over to Superintendent Lyons for some final comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. As we close out our slides, we'd like to try to summarize where we're at. So a no vote this morning from you would mean no improvements to the delivery of education in terms of the educational plan. We would risk losing our NEASC certification, or our accreditation, excuse me. It would affect our capital improvements. We would also, really, it would set us back also in regard to the accessibility piece. You've heard that said several times. We have several students that are rising from the elementary and middle levels that need a more accessible building. So a no vote wouldn't mean that we wouldn't do anything. We would have to do something. More to follow on that, please. So the other part that I started off by saying that this is a milestone in a 5-year process that has gotten us to where we are right now. We also would run the risk of kind of losing our accreditation in state funding from Chapter 70 as well. Next slide, please. A yes vote this morning would mean meeting the standards that have been put forth by NEASC and creating different educational experiences for students, also cited in the standards in our educational plan by the teachers. As Joe Bertrand shared, it would lock in costs that has an acceleration part built in that other districts have not accounted for, but we have. It would also create an accessible facility for our students that would improve academic, extracurricular, and athletic experiences for our students in regard to the facilities that they could play in and be taught in. You heard Tim O'Brien talk about sustainability and the savings in regard to energy. It would also improve the air quality as well as the balanced heating and cooling in the building. And you heard teachers talk about the positive impact that it would create for students. And it would improve the community resource as a shared public building that could be accessible to everybody in the community. So that's to summarize kind of where we are at this point. I'd like to turn it back over to Steve so we can close out. Thank you.
Next slide, please. So as we stated, that this, and it's also stated in the motion, that given a positive vote here today, we will be looking for a townwide election sometime in March. And you may ask, why not have this town-wide election with the regular town election? SBA will not let us do that because we have to have the full funding in place 120 days from their approval, which was December 21st or 20th, I believe. So the time frame is too long for the town election, unfortunately. I believe as the closing of the, next slide, please, closing of the presentation, Mr. Chairman Markham has some points, and that, as do a couple of members of the town council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo, and good morning, all. Thank you very much for coming. I am Tom Markham, Chair of the School Committee. I'm at 42 Harrison Ave here in Wakefield. Good morning. This, as a number of the speakers have said, this project has been a long time in coming, a long time overdue, and much needed. But in summary, very much like to say on behalf of joining my colleagues on the school committee both this morning and over the last 5 years, there have been a continuous, unanimous vote among school committee members each time this project has come up for a vote. I think it's important to say that in summary, this plan creates new, safer and energy efficient buildings to improve teaching and learning, expectations and experiences for teachers, staff, and students. The new building is necessary for keeping students in the Wakefield Public Schools and the very strong likelihood of bringing some students back, as we saw when the new Galvin opened. The age, there were better learning spaces, will allow students to be better prepared to enter the current and more technology-savvy college experiences and workplace environments. The age and conditions of the building right now are fairly obvious and really indisputable. The teaching and learning needs for students over the next 50 years, including today, are much different than they have been over the past 50 years, and we must do better by our kids. As the superintendent said in one of the closing slides, the cost for not doing this today are only going to get higher. And I think that's an important note, that it is time, it is needed, it is essential for the educational needs of students and the appropriate workplace environments for our faculty and staff. Let me finish by thanking everyone over the last 5 years who has worked on this project. This has not been an easy task. It's not been a quick lift, and I want to thank all the committees, the volunteers who have put in so much energy to bring us here this morning. Thank you all.
Julie Smith Galvin, on behalf of ESC.
Good morning. Thank you. I think the presentation did a very good job of laying out well, the work is that it's gone into this project, as well as the vision of how this building is going to provide a modern education to prepare our students for a complex world. I was asked to share the thoughts of the Environmental Sustainability Committee. It is an 11-member committee appointed by the Town Council that voted unanimously to support this project based on its sustainability criteria. And I just wanted to add 1 or 2 points to what you've already heard about sustainability. First, Wakefield, after a multi-year process, just was accepted into the State Green Communities Program. Among the efforts that we will have to take as part of that is to reduce the municipal energy efficiency by 20% over the next 5 years. This building, although being slightly larger than the current building, will actually reduce the energy used by 60%. So we will use 60% less energy in this building than what is in the current building, and that includes air conditioning, which, as you heard, will be a huge game changer from an educational standpoint. In addition, we've worked with the Wakefield Municipal Gas and Light Department to build what's called an energy park or a microgrid that will provide this school with backup power. It will provide the entire community with backup power. This school would become really a resiliency center, a heating, cooling center. If there was ever a blackout, we would be able to use the batteries and the solar panels that are on here. And in doing so, that would reduce the carbon footprint of this building by about 1,300 metric tons a year of CO2. That's in addition to all of the just basic upgrades, the mechanical, the healthier air, composting and recycling facilities. So the Environmental Sustainability Committee supports this, and we hope you'll join us. Thank you.
Town Council Vice Chair, Jonathan Chines.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jonathan Chines, 34 Hopkins Street, and Vice Chair of the Town Council. I want to start this morning by thanking the members of the Permanent Building Committee, the School Building Committee, our financial team, all of our teachers and administrators who have put years into bringing this project before us today. This represents a lot of thoughtful deliberation over the years, robust debate on many of the alternatives that Mr. Bertrand shared, and careful planning. And it's for this reason that the Town Council joins the Finance Committee, the Environmental Sustainability Committee, and the School Committee in unanimously supporting this project. We know about the problems in the current building. We've heard about them today. There's inadequate space for our core academic programs, especially in science and technology. Large parts of the building are inaccessible, meaning that we're failing some of our most needy students here at Wakefield High School and in our elementary and middle school grades. And finally, quite simply, it's a 60-year-old building that's outlived its useful life, with structural issues, building system issues, and safety issues that need to be addressed. And let's be clear that these are not due to a lack of maintenance and upkeep. It's simply an old, tired, worn-out building. As the Town Council, we acknowledge that this is the most expensive and complex project that Wakefield will have ever undertaken. It's a big ask of our residents. That's part of the reason why we're proud that we've been able to reduce the tax burden for our seniors through the Wakefield Senior Property Tax Exemption Program that Mr. Mayo mentioned. That's also why we've worked really diligently over the years to make sure that we maintain our AAA bond rating so we can reduce borrowing costs to the town. As you vote today on this article, I would ask you to think about this proposal from a value perspective. We know, based on the work that we've done, that merely fixing the deficiencies in the current building and bringing it up to code would cost Wakefield nearly as much after the MSBA's reimbursement as a new facility. Think about that, nearly as much, and we still wouldn't be addressing the educational needs that we've spoken of today. Building a modern new high school is a much better value for Wakefield's taxpayers than maintaining or renovating this building, and that's why now is the time to act, now is the time to approve this project before costs continue to rise. As a town council, I think all of my colleagues believe that part of our responsibility is maintaining a vibrant community for Wakefield, both our current residents as well as future generations. And I believe that this project is one of the most important things that we could undertake to achieve that vision. And so on behalf of the Town Council, I thank you for your attention and attendance this morning and encourage you to please vote yes for the new Wakefield High School. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
You're welcome, Mr. Chines. From FinCom, we have Doug Butler. Vice Chair.
I will never forgive Jim for taking off on vacation this weekend. Doug Butler, 220 Main Street, Vice Chair of the Finance Committee. One thing that should be abundantly clear to everybody in this room, as Jonathan said, building a high school is the most expensive thing a town does, any town. It is the biggest expense we have. Luckily, it's similar to like buying your first house. You do it once. Most taxpayers, again, this building's 60 years old. It's being built for a minimum life of 50 years, and we know what that means. In general, we'll try and squeeze 60 out of this next one. So most people throughout Wakefield, most homeowners throughout Wakefield, you get hit with this charge once. It's a big number. We're not denying that. We think it's astonishingly big. It's like, really, it costs that much? But what I will say is, and you heard, the Finance Committee, the Town Council, the School Committee, there are a lot of people with a lot of different viewpoints on those committees, and we unanimously decided that this is the right thing to do, among other things, largely because it's not just our costs that we're taking, but if we take this project, we get $65 million from the state. It's essentially like, your parents give you the down payment for your house. Or you can just continue to live in their basement for the next, 10 or 15 years. The other thing is because we have maintained strong discipline as a town and as a finance group, we do have a top bond rating. And while interest rates have gone up from where they were, gosh, we wish we had gotten approved like 4 years ago because we could have borrowed at much lower rates. They're still relatively low for the long term, and because we are still very financially strong as a town, we still have these opportunities. This high school will be a capstone project for us. It is going to be the shining light that continues to attract new people to move to the town. Again, right now, this high school has served actually probably many of the people in this building, because I know a lot of Wakefielders stay here, are lifelong residents. It's served you well. I went back to my 35th reunion for high school, 35th? Yeah, 35th last year. And it is a same building, but very different. And if you look here, it's the same building that I hear from my friends, but it's pretty much the same. It's served us well, it's lived its life. We have to move on from it. Look, the cost of doing nothing is so much higher. The Finance Committee unanimously recommends approval.
So that's the conclusion of our presentation. Go to the next slide, please. Okay. For those of you that are much more tech savvy than I am, there's a QR code up there that you can, I guess, put your phone on and take a picture of it, or on some of the monitors, and you can maybe get to the website from for the project as well. And Mr. Moderator, that concludes our presentation.
Any discussion on the motion before you? I'm going to invoke my own rule here and let Charlie McCauley come up front and utilize this. Charlie and I get along on nothing politically, but we're friends. Come on up. So, oh, good, you're leaving the cane there. You can come here. Oh, be here. Here, come here. Yeah, come here.
All right, I won't collapse on you.
All right. It's 5 minutes, Charlie.
Charlie McCauley, 32 Lawrence Street, Wakefield. I'm going to start right off with telling you, I'm going to vote no. But now I'm going to tell you why. I've been a homeowner in Wakefield for 59 plus years, so that makes that time the same age as this building for all practical purposes. But in addition to that, I've been a taxpayer during that 59 and a half years in this town. And we've built the Yule School, the Doyle School, the Dahlbeer School, sixth grade wing on the Atwell building, the Galvin School. We converted the junior high school to a high school. We paid the conversion of the Woodville School from taking it out of mothballs to what it is today. In addition to that, we also built the Volk School. So nobody can say that I haven't contributed to the education of our children through the building of school systems. And to that last comment about never being around probably to pay for 2 high schools, that's wrong. I've been here for the paying of 1 high school already and the conversion of it, and now being asked to pay for another one. My family and my wife's family have had 4 generations each educated in this system. None of us have ended up in jail. We've all become productive taxpayers. Some of us still live in Wakefield, as I've said, 59 and a half years of owning a home in Wakefield. The Wakefield school system in the past has educated some very intelligent people, people that have gone on to make a mark in the world, not just in the local community. Examples, General Galvin, 4-star general, head of NATO. John Volpe, governor of Massachusetts, secretary of transportation under President Eisenhower. A gentleman by the name of Horowitz, who's a playwright, internationally known, presently lives in Gloucester. Russell Banks, who just recently passed away, one of my classmates, a noted writer. We've generated and created CEOs, homeowners, accountants, lawyers, doctors, tradesmen, business owners, engineers, and even local politicians. I and my family and other senior citizens who have lived here this long have contributed over and over and over to the education facilities of this town. Now you're asking us to do something else. When there is an option, distasteful as it may be to a lot of people, of modifying this building and bringing it up to code, which is approximately $30 million less than our cost would be if we build a new school. I'm going to vote no. I'm recommending that everybody else should vote no for the same reason. There are a lot of us senior citizens. My house is 118 years old. The house I owned prior to that was 150 years old when I bought it. Old homes get fixed. If the roof leaks, we get it fixed. Not patched, fixed. If the plumbing leaks, we get it fixed, not patched. If the heating system goes, and I've put in 3 brand new furnaces into my house during that period of time. Water systems, oil tanks, whatever the heating system, you get it fixed. You don't just patch it. What has this town done during the last 59 and a half years? What work has gone into repairing this school? Not patching it, repairing it. They're talking about the systems, the heating systems, so forth, reach their end of life.
30 seconds, Charlie.
What recommendations have been made to repair those? At what cost? I haven't heard any cost associated with that. I haven't seen any timetables laid out. I haven't seen any additional plans laid out for the modifications. It's all been one way, build a new building. No, we have other options. Exercise it. Thank you.
Thank you. Careful. Here. Any further discussion? Okay, the microphones are back there. I invoke the Phyllis Hull roll for Charlie. Thank you for anyone who gets that.
Hello? Okay.
Where are you? Okay.
The mic?
You are?
Christine Ryu, 22 Woodland Road, in
Okay.
Wakefield. And I just had a question. Well, first I wanted to thank you for the presentation and thank all the educators in the room for their service and commitment to the youth of Wakefield. It's a tough job. I've done it for a few decades too. But I wondered if Mr. Mayo could take us back to the slide that says estimated tax impact. Okay, that one's really hard to read unless you're like 5 feet from the slide, but the next one shows the calculated tax impact. And
Next slide.
yeah,
Thank you.
and I just wondered why you only showed an example taking us up to 2027. I mean, I hope I'm here beyond 2027.
Oh, okay.
And I wondered if you could just explain the estimated or calculated tax impact from 2027 to 2047, because it looks like those are going to be much higher amounts for us. So that's
Right.
like a nice long 20-year span,
Right.
and yeah, if you
So
could speak
like,
to that.
it would have been very busy to put every year on there, as you can see. So from 20, once the full effect of the bonds come in 2029, essentially those will be the same from 2029 through, 2056 before it comes off. So those will be the same. We'll be in like all the bonds have come in, they're all there, so they'll be the same for all those years.
So it's going to be $528 a year from 20.
If you have a $550 property, $550,000 assessed value.
Okay, the previous slide, it seemed like it was more like 1,300 to 1,500.
Well,
It was
bring
hard.
that back. I'm sorry. Bring it back to the next one. So that's in 2027 when the full bonds haven't come in. That's
Okay.
just an example. So if you took $1.95 times 550, that would probably be the same from 29 on.
So going back to the previous slide, I'm sorry to be persistent here, but what do those rates say for, I can't see them, say for the third column, is that an $800,000 house?
800,000, yes, 800,000.
So in 2028, what is the expected tax burden for?
Assuming that we borrowed somewhere between 4.25 and 5.5, those are the ranged.
Yeah,
And assuming that there's no new growth,
yeah.
because I can't figure that out every year, you would be for 800,000. What year did you want? 2028?
Yeah.
1286 to 1437 for this example.
Okay, and that goes on for how long?
Well, that would go on next year. It would be, because we have the full amount, 1365 to 1563. Again, no new growth, no other factors.
Right.
And then, then through 47, it would be at that same level, 1365 to 1563.
Okay, so 2028 till 2047.
Right.
The annual rates are, could you say them again?
1365 to 1563 based on an $800,000 assessed value.
Okay, so that's for 20 years, that's what we'll be paying
Correct.
annually. Okay.
Again, based I don't know if there's new growth, I don't know other mitigation, if we use all the money, but that's
Right.
given
And
an
new
example.
growth requires new police officers and new other infrastructure
It
and
may,
so on. So
it may.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, is there anybody, I can't see, is there anybody over here? Just one microphone? Okay, just thanks, Ian. By the way, folks, there's lots of seats over here. Just, the town clerk wants you to utilize them. Okay, you're up.
Hi, my name is Dan Noren. I am a Wakefield resident of 60 years. I am also a board member on the Wakefield Environmental Sustainability Committee, but I am talking as a private citizen right now. My kids have gone through Wakefield, and I have been through many of the Wakefield improvements and so forth and so on. I just have some comments to make. I'm not going to tell you how to vote. I'm not even going to tell you how I'm going to vote, but I think it's going to be evident as how that's going to be. We live in a society, and society has a price for living in it. And I can think of no better way of paying that price is in kids' education and their future, and as a matter of fact, all of our futures. Some of the people here have talked about what's gone on in the past, and that's fine. It's gone in the past, and it is the past. It's time to take a look at the future and what we need to do in order to make that future much better than what we have had in the past. And I just hope you consider all of the things and all of the endorsements that the people here have made, and to make the decision that you need to make. Thank you.
No. Really? Really? Enough.
Thank you, folks.
Stood in line a long time to be thrown out for clapping. Next.
Felix Freeman. I've lived in Wakefield all my life. My brothers, my sister, and my sister's 4 kids all went through this school system. I went to junior high in that section. I started as a substitute in '05, walked around, got reacquainted. My 7th grade locker is still here. And I couldn't believe in 40 plus years, the school committee did nothing to take care of this building. And like the other gentleman said about the leakage, they had buckets everywhere. And so I plan on voting because I can take the hit. But does it include a new field house too? The new building? No field house?
Is that a yes or no? That's a yes.
Oh, okay. And one thing I don't think is a good idea is that rotary you're going to put out front. That is going to be a disaster, because I was a substitute here for 17 years, and trying to get into this building early in the morning or in the afternoon when school gets out, traffic backs all the way up almost to the Saugus line, all the way down Water Street, Nahan Street, and people don't respect the right-of-way or the yield signs in a rotary. You're going to have people trying to get in and out, people trying to get past the school to go to work, kids trying to cross the street. It's going to be a disaster. And I think the town, not the school committee, should come up with the money to put lights on all 4 corners and straighten that mess out, because it's going to be all dug up anyway. So that's my say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Maria Oliveira, and I live on Nahan Street. The only thing I'd like to bring up, those of us that won't be here on March 11th, is there someone here that can go over the process of getting an absentee ballot or the early voting procedure? And if there's a way, other than the item, that we can get the word out to people in town that this certainly is an option for them.
Okay, this is not really within the 4 corners of the motion, but we have someone here handy.
Thank
who
you.
can respond to your question.
Get out of the way, please. Get out of my way. Good morning, Marie. Oh, is this too loud? Okay. Here's the deal. If this passes with a 2/3 vote today, you can stop me if I'm wrong, it will go to the ballot once the date is set, and as Town Administrator Mayo said, it'll probably be sometime in March, early March, close to the middle, all right? I can't say that. But anyway, once it's called, you have 3 opportunities to vote. Well, get an absentee ballot and send it in. The new Votes Act says that you do not have to be one of the 3 challenges that used to be before that someone could challenge. Anyone can vote absentee, all right? And we'll mail you out a ballot. Or you can come down to the Galvin, and I will see you there. But that's how you can vote. There is no early voting for this particular election. This election is really based on the date that the school building assistance has set, all right? So it's a special town election. Trust me. You can come into the office, you can vote there on an absentee ballot once I get them, and I'll have all that on the website, and I'll put it in the daily item, and you can call the office and ask. But there is no way I would ever prevent anyone from voting. And I think most of you know that. But those are your options, Marie. Where's Marie? Where'd she go? Oh, Marie. You were there once. You moved like a deer. But you can sign up for an absentee ballot. We will get it out to you as soon as we can. And also, I don't trust, I shouldn't say that if there's any postal workers in here, but, you know, it's easy to just come down and say hello and vote right in the office. We keep them there. We don't open them until that morning, and they get fed through the machines. Or you can come and you can vote at the Galvin on the date that the town council sets up. Okay? Thank you. Don't you dare.
Any further speakers?
Good morning. My name is Colby Jackson, 12 Houston Street. My great-grandfather was born in this town, and he lived across the street from his grandfather. And this building is so old, I'm surprised that they didn't go here. And I just wanted 2 brief points for any folks here today who are thinking about voting no because of concern on your taxes. I just ask you to remember 2 things. The first is that your taxes are going to go up anyway because the state is going to come in here, they're going to decredit the town, decertify the education here, and we're going to have to pay more and more every year to fix a failing building. The second thing I want you to remember is your children, your friends with children, your grandchildren. If you vote no today, you are choosing a worse future for them, a worse facility, no air conditioning, and you're also choosing a worse deal for yourself and this taxpayer base. So remember those 2 things whenever you see your children, your grandchildren, your friends. You owe it to them today to vote yes.
Hey, no, enough. Enough. Really. Pretty sure you could hear.
My name is Andrea, and I am a longtime resident of Wakefield, over 30 years. And I am asking everyone in this room to please refrain from clapping or laughing. I find it extremely hard to be up here at this microphone. And I want to be able to speak. I do agree with the first gentleman that came up, 100%. I also agree with the woman that came up, secondly, and some of the comments that she made. I would like to comment on the tax gizmo chart. The numbers look grand. They're meant to get people's attention. There's one thing that I noticed is in all your figuring, you did not include that everyone's property goes up in value. You're basing it as if someone's house remains at that valuation. So I do believe, or I suspect, that the impact of those taxes will go up even more. So you cannot believe, or I cannot believe, that my taxes will only go up X over time. Also, and related to this part of your advertisement, when you brought up about the circuit breaker program, I have to back up a moment, and I hope you people where I have a disability will give me a little more time. I was forced to retire when I was in my 50s from the state for medical reasons. Because I was a state employee, even though I made my quarters working for Social Security because of a bill passed by Ronald Reagan, I believe it's both state workers and municipal workers only are entitled to half of their Social Security monthly benefit. For me, that equals $400 a month. I was raised to never talk in public about sex, politics, or money. I am breaking what I was taught as a child. In terms of my pension, because I was forced to retire early, it is extremely low. My monthly pension is $2,500 roughly, of which I have to have taxes taken out. I find it very difficult to be able to pay for what I have. When I bought my house in 1992, women were not typically given a loan. Houses went to women who were divorced, who typically lost their homes, or they inherited it. I bought a home and scrimped and saved after my daughter and I lived in a shelter for battered women for months. We lived with an elderly woman my apartment would never have passed Board of Health for years while I scrimped and saved in my 20s and early 30s and sacrificed to be able to have enough money, and that was the time when people typically put 25% down on the down payment. Because I was a single woman, I actually had to prove that my down payment was not had because I was a prostitute or sold drugs. I was not a namsy-pamsy of people today. I had to have 7 years of tax records proving my income. I had to have 5 years of utilities and everything else proving that fact. I got a handyman special, and I have worked my tail feathers off for my house. No one, absolutely no one, has ever helped me for 1 penny of anything. I have worked extremely hard, and I deserve to have my house. When I went down for the circuit breaker program and the other program with the town of Wakefield,
30 seconds.
I was told that I had to give all kinds of documentations. What you don't realize is 401ks or whatever retirement plan is, they don't count. But if the only money you have is in your bank account or your checking account, that counts. I don't qualify for anything. I realize that this is an advertisement of the teachers, but you should look at their age group.
Thank you.
Please give consideration. You folks up there,
Thank you very much.
I
5
want
minutes.
one sentence.
Gave you a
I
warning.
deserve it.
Okay, thank you.
My
No
sentence is
clapping.
this. For me,
Thank
it
you
is
very
not-
much.
It is a matter of
Thank you.
survival.
5 minutes
I don't
is 5
deserve
minutes.
to be kicked
Thank
out of
you.
my house.
Thank you, ma'am. Stop. Next one. It's 5 minutes,
The
folks.
person who boobed is only showing how
Excuse
immature
me.
you are.
Excuse me. Next. Oh, Mr. McLaughlin.
Bob McLaughlin, 376 Water Street. Just for the record, our family's lived here. The beginning of our family started here in 1975. We had 3 children that went through this school, including and 4 that went through the Galvin. I got involved with the very early meetings of this project probably 4 years ago or so. And at that time, it was pre-pandemic. At that time, the school they were projecting to put the school over on the Walsh Field, right over here, with a $1 million bridge to bridge Walsh Field, where the school was going to be, over to the fields where we are right now. And then at some point, that flipped over to the Beasley track. But the one thing I brought up at those meetings was the model school program that the Massachusetts, the SBA set up several years ago. And effectively what that is to adapt and reuse the design of successful recently constructed elementary, middle, and high schools. For instance, Quincy built an elementary school, and they modeled that after the Linfield Middle School. And so the question that I had at those meetings is why doesn't Wakefield, why have we've never used that program? And for some reason or other, many, for very many reasons, many cities and towns have. In fact, the high schools that have used that program over the years are located in Marshfield, Natick, Norwood, Tewksbury, West Springfield, Plymouth, Franklin, and other cities. And the reason I brought this up is it seems to make sense to model somebody else's school so that we save an awful lot of money in design work and some of the other funding that has gone through this project. For instance, just a couple of years ago, in this very room, we voted to raise $2 million. We spent $2 million for the design work that's required by to get the granting for this school. And a lot of that money was really wasted. Okay, I said it at the time, that we were going to be building a new school. But the state requires that we had to go through all this design work to figure out whether we were going to renovate with an addition. I said the same thing with the Galvin. The Galvin was going to be a brand new school. This will eventually be a brand new school. It just seems like an awful lot of money that got wasted right there, right out of the gate. And but I think the concerns that I have is the reimbursement percentage that we're getting from the state for this school is absurd. $73 million on a big budget like this, whatever it is, $65 million, I believe, it's just too low. So something's got to give here. The Galvin got a 54% grant on a $73 million budget. In fact, the Woodville got a 68% grant on the budget for that school. So it's just too low. And looking at the big picture, we're spending $12 million plus on the public safety building rehab right now in real time. We're looking at a DPW facility that's going to be built at some point or other. The Greenwood School is totally aged out. Our roads, need an awful lot of repair. The economy is definitely going south. And on top of all that, we got a ton of apartments and condos being built all over the place. They're replacing a lot of our commercial tax base on all the tear downs going on. Our taxes have never been going down. And the impact on the schools for the incoming families coming into these apartments and condos, I think it's a concern going down the road here for the elementary, particularly the elementary schools. We may end up building another elementary school or temporary classrooms or something. So
30 seconds.
That's kind of where it is, but I think we ought to go back to the planning board on this one, drawing board, so to speak, and get something in line with something that we can get a 50% reimbursement from the state, because this is just not enough. Thank you so much.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
I'm Winona Colby McDonald Manley, been married twice. Second marriage, I'm 40 and a half years into it, and my husband would have been here except that he's not well. What I have to say is that at home, I've been in my house since 1967. That I bought when my children my oldest daughter was 2. We've replaced heating and plumbing systems in our homes, and also our roofs and windows. There's no reason why that can't be done in this building. You can also update elevators. I also have something I want to say to Mr. Bertrand. I'm not too fond of Mr. Bertrand. And the reason for that,
We're going to keep personalities out of it. Thank you.
I do have to make this one remark.
You can make a point about the school. Permit school is his role as a permit.
No, it's about the public safety building.
Okay, sure.
Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. When I worked as chairman on the Dalby and renovations in addition, I also was chairman of building the new Woodville School. At the same time, Mr. Bertrand and a bunch of other men were working on the public safety building. They opted not to go back to the town for more money. We did. We did get more money for our 2 schools, and we finished them. And now look where the public safety building is, and where Mr. Bertrand and the public safety in his committee in the public safety building is. Is this what's going to happen with Mr. Bertrand and the committee in charge of this? Because if it is, it's not going to fly. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Hello, Kevin Fontanella, 11 Emerald Street. I am a history teacher, so please don't tune me out. I promise not to give you a long lecture. But as I heard from the previous speakers here today, Wakefield obviously has a rich and long history that everyone in this room should be proud of. If you look around us, if you look at all the banners in this building, the school that has been sitting here for the last 50, 60 years, I think that we should all be proud of what this town is and what this town has given to all of the people that have come through the educational system. And what I would like to say is that back in the 1980s, in the 1960s, in the 1950s, as we go back generations, every generation that brought their kids to school here, they decided to invest in this town. They decided to invest in the public schools in this town. And I think that it is always incumbent upon us to think about, constantly thinking about the future investment in the town that we live in. And I think that just because Wakefield obviously has a rich history and a great history, we want to keep that going. The minute we stop thinking about the present and just think about the past is where we're going to get into trouble as a society and as a town. So I just want to finish with this. If you look at the room around you, you look at everyone that's sitting here right now. This is the greatest country in the world for one reason. We all get to decide right now if we are going to invest in the future of our kids in this town, not just 2023, 2033, 50 years from now. I ask you to vote yes on this motion.
Okay, are there any other? Right, okay. Yeah, showing, well, never mind. Next speaker, I'd implore you not to clap. You're a legislative body. If you're a pep rally, go to the football game.
Please clap.
Don't clap.
We'll see. Anthony Guardia, 27 Davy Lane, Wakefield, Mass, obviously. I'm just up here. I want to let you know we have 163 children upstairs. It's been a little bit over 2 hours. We've heard some excellent debate. I'd like to move the question and vote.
All right. You know, you're dead. Is there any discussion? Is there a second? Is there any discussion on the motion to move the question? 2 minutes. Any discussion? No, you have to go to the microphone and don't yell out. Are you speaking on moving the question?
Sure, let's move the question.
Any other speakers to move the question in opposition or in favor? Anybody? Okay, tellers who need to be sworn in first due to the kerfuffle this morning. Now, when they come around, you have to hold your little blue card up or your vote will not be counted. Two-thirds. Two-thirds vote. Yeah. Do you have a question? Put me on. I just want you to know that moving the question only means We will then vote on the main motion. Okay. Somebody point that person out. Where's an officer? I just want to point out to you that this means that we will end debate and we will then vote again, just so everybody doesn't head for the hills if this passes, okay? Just want you to know that. Are we ready? Okay. Just wondering. Stop. Stop. Normally you'd have to be seated, but today it's within the moderator's discretion, and they will make sure we've already taken provisions to make sure that the people standing show us the little blue card. Thank you. Are you ready? If you are in favor of moving the question, hold the little blue card up in the air until you're sure you have been counted. Madam Clerk, you all set with the yes? You got them all? Okay. All those opposed, please hold your blue card up in the air until you're sure your vote has been counted. Thank you. What's the point of order? Pardon me? I can't. You weren't, yes votes weren't counted? Betsy? They said they were counted. Yeah. She's going to come back. Yeah, and then just divide it. No, you can't. The clerk has assured me that was rectified. All those opposed, hold up your blue card until you're sure you have been counted. In favor of moving the question, 1,263. Opposed? How many opposed, Bets? 10. Okay, so that ends debate on the motion. We have to do this again. Understand that when you borrow or when you make a zoning change, blah, blah, blah. But for today, this will be a bonded issue. And therefore, because bond counsel is really particular, and Attorney Mullen, who's really smart, said that we have to do it this way. So now, here we go for the main event. All in favor of the motion before you regarding the proposed new high school, gonna miss this, Jim. Raise your hand or raise your blue card, hold it in the air until you're sure you've been counted. All right, here we go. Once again.
121, Section 4 and 5.
Got it. Thank you.
Right in. Yeah, right now, sure.
125 in the balcony.
152 on the floor right.
281.
324.
So that's it, huh? All those opposed, raise your. They say they're not counted. Who's? Why do they think they're not counted? Who's supposed to count them? No, 109 in the neglected section. Fair enough. All those opposed, raise your hand, including you folks in the back, until you're sure you have been counted. Hey, you guys, count back there, will you? Do me a favor. No, I'm asking you to. Ready, Vince?
2 on the right floor.
$22.
17. 1, section 4 and 5.
0 in the balcony.
That's everybody. Even that guy who's going to run for town. Before we announce the grand total and you stampede out of here, I want to thank Doug Lyons, the building, particularly the buildings facility section of the Wakefield School Department. This is an amazing job to put this all together. Now's the time to clap. You know, all these folks here put in a lot of time and effort, one way or the other. People, all of you who have participated, this is a fabulous showing. And as always, I want to thank CAT. These guys work far more than they should, and it's a fabulous organization. And they take a lot of time and effort to put this whole show together. Is it perfect? No, it works better in the Galvin, but it wouldn't hold you. Are you ready? All in favor? I'm reading the number of all in favor. Your job's done. 1,231 in favor. 42. Thank you very much. I will entertain. Thank you. Yeah. I just had a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Is there any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Thank you very much.